Welcome to AROYA Office Hours Live, a weekly session for cultivators to hear from the experts and talk to each other about what they're seeing with their grows. My name is Kaisha. I'm your co-moderator today because I can't do it alone. What's up, Mandy?
Hey, Kaisha. How are you?
Good, excited. You want to tell our friends out there what's so special about today's episode?
I would love to. Today is actually our 30th episode of AROYA Office Hours. It's a pretty big session for us today. So yeah, just thinking about it this morning, about how much we've learned. It just seems like yesterday when we were learning about, VPD and why we don't say flush and just all the basics to crop steering. So it's super exciting. And we thank everyone for joining us today.
Amazing. Yeah, super excited. Really proud of the work that we've done here and just the opportunity to talk to cultivators. We have some special programming today. Seth and Jason, who is in the house?
Good. How we doing, guys? Yeah, appreciate you guys having us on today. PG is excited to have the opportunity to sit down and talk with you guys a little bit about our experience using Arroyo and just our cultivation background and how we came to where we're at today.
Sweet. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, this is Jake from Peninsula Gardens. If you want to explain your title and kind of a little bit about your background, Jake, that'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Jake Shockey. I'm the general manager here at Peninsula Gardens in Orion, Michigan. We're about a year into cultivating at this current time. We started with a caregiver on myself specifically. I was a caregiver 10 plus years ago, growing in Michigan's medical market on a small scale basis, doing 72 plants at different mediums, different styles of cultivation, and basement, bull barn, those kind of practices. And now 10 years later, we're in a beautiful state of the art facility, and things have changed a little bit, all the way from the data monitoring and tracking to the cultivars that we're growing. So it's been a really, exciting time to, grow with the cannabis industry itself. And I'm happy to be here. So, I'd love to give you guys a little background on kind of how I got here and how, Peninsula got here, if you guys are up to hearing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, I guess, like I said, I started as a caregiver. Cannabis has always been in my family. My dad's had a huge passion for cannabis for a long time. My mom was the first graduate from the turfgrass program at Ohio State, which is an agronomy degree. So she's always had a huge love for plants, which kind of inspired me at a young age to learn a lot more about plants in general and just, kind of the studies of that. And then from there on, I dove in a little bit deeper after college into cannabis specifically. I was able to team up here at Peninsula with a group of, 12 or so caregivers that were all doing our own thing on a separate scale. And we were able to recruit a really talented cultivator from grassroots, Austin Edelmeyer, who's our DC over here at Peninsula Gardens, as well as Aaron Schneider, who's a good friend of mine who went to high school with me. And we reconnected years later after high school, and not knowing that either one of us were even into cultivation and growing cannabis. And now we're partners at a pretty large scale. So it's been fun to take this journey on with all these individuals at Peninsula Gardens. We have a really strong family, close-knit group of people, and we're always here to push each other and grow every day. So yeah, it's kind of how we got here.
Nice. How long has Peninsula been formally a company?
So we started the journey about 3 years ago. I actually came on board initially as a consultant. I was doing consulting on about 10 plus, licensed facilities as Michigan was transitioning from the caregiver market, which was kind of a small medical side thing where you can only grow for your patients, all the way to a licensed, metric compliant state. I consulted on many different grows, and then I consulted on Peninsula, and I was able to meet my partners, which we have today. And we just hit it off really well. That was about 3 years ago when we started the project. We built the building from the ground up, suited exactly to our needs, state of the art. So that way, when things go federally legal, we have everything in place to be fully up to snuff as far as top shelf cleanliness practices and so forth. So that's kind of how Peninsula came about. We've been actually growing for about a year now. First plants went into the ground about June 1st, 2021. So that was an exciting time for us. And our first harvest was in September 1. And now we are here and deep into the harvest cycle, and we can't keep product on the shelf. So we've came a long way, and it's exciting.
It's so cool, man. It's a interesting transition from being a caregiver into fully commercial and the legalized transformation. So what, what are some of the things that you really liked about growing as a caregiver, and how has that changed? And what is your favorite thing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we all started becoming a caregiver because we had passion for the plant. We had passion for smoking cannabis. We had others, whether it be in our family or, friends of friends that needed cannabis from like, a medical perspective. So we were passionate about the plant from a medical use standpoint, as well as just, competing and growing the best possible flowers that we possibly could. So the nice thing about being a caregiver that I really miss is you could, try a lot of different things. We grew in a lot of different mediums, different styles. And initially we kind of started like an ebb and flow. I don't know if you guys remember those days, all the way to like a deep water culture, pretty high level, like, water culture, and then a little bit of aeroponics, all the way to like that drip style that we're using now with like a cocoa medium or something like the such, rock wool as well. So, I just really miss the hands-on experience that, you're with the plants every day, those kind of caregiver things. But today, it's about managing the people, managing the data, making, data-driven decisions generally, and, making sure that you're giving the people what they want: new cultivars, new flavors, top shelf stuff. So, it's just a little bit different world from the caregiver to the commercial life, but, we love them both the same.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more liability on testing and trying and pushing new ways of growing when you've got as much product to hit the shelves as you do right now. What you guys ended up in Rockwell?
So currently we're in Sharkware cubes, about a half-gallon medium. We've definitely played a little bit with Rockwell, but we really like where we're at with a small cocoa cube currently. We're able to steer the medium how we like to. We're getting great growth rates. We like that it comes in compressed, so you don't have to deal with much pest presence ever. Don't have to treat your cocoa as much as, getting actual, non-compressed cocoa. So that's kind of how we're growing right now.
Cool. I know I love cocoa myself, so it's fun. Our sensors work well. Doesn't take up a lot of space, easy to buy, lots of good product on the market these days as far as the vendors of different cocoa goes.
Yeah, great storage and flavor. Like, you can store it, doesn't take up a lot of space, which is great. And I think the flavor you get out of the cocoa is just unparalleled too. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. What, maybe you just want to tell us a little bit about your other parts of your facility. What kind of lights you're running, what kind of irrigation systems, how many rooms?
I'd love to.
Get us in there.
Yeah, we'll do a quick kind of virtual tour. And if anybody actually wants to see a really cool drone tour, we have a drone tour on our website as well as our Instagram. So you can actually see a pretty cool drone flying in between the plants, underneath the canopy, below the benches, above the benches. It's pretty cool. One of the guys, like, it's like a top drone guy in the country, he came through and does some wild tricks and stuff. But, we have 3 flower rooms. Each flower room is 80 lights. We have all LED facility. We're using Fluence, Viper 2Ps in each flower room. Like I said, we're going in Sharkware medium. We have about 600 plants per room, give or take. We're generally pulling around, I would say, 200 to 240 pounds of trimmed usable flower, not counting trim, per harvest. Obviously strain dependent, some strains yielding heavier than others, but obviously growing for quality, terpene, flavor, profile, which is why we got these awards over here. That's what we strive for. Obviously we want quantity, but quality is first here always. We have a really solid cultivation team, about 12 people. They're very well knit. We take fresh frozen sometimes for extracts. We do rosin products, different collaborative products, but in-house we mainly pre-pack our flower in eighths. We have some really cool packaging as well that's also on our website. We also do pre-rolls. We're prided ourselves in having some of the top pre-rolls in the state as well. Fertigation wise, we use a rhythm direct injection feed style. We're currently transitioning to a batch style feeding system, which I think we're going to be a little bit more happy with. We also have like some cool knickknack stuff, like a cryo freezer for preserving terpenes when we're taking extracts. We really try to make data-driven decisions in everything, whether that be from fresh frozen yields based on how long we're freezing our product in a cryo freezer or whatever. We really want to make sure we have that data so we can get the most out of what we're doing here at Peninsula. So that would be kind of the run through of the facility somewhat. Currently, we're in the process of tripling production. We're going to be adding on 5 additional flower rooms since we only have 3. A lot more mother and veg space as well. Currently, we have a 2-tier veg room. So we're currently building out to a second phase as well. We're adding on a retail location as well. So we're really growing very fast. We also have an outdoor cultivation setup, which is a 20 acres that we're doing all for extraction. So we're, doing a lot of different things, and it's growing and it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like a fun facility to work at. You guys are well equipped. And I guess when you mentioned the challenges, what are some of the things that you guys are facing over in your market right now?
Yeah, I think at the time that we came online, with obviously the COVID stuff was going on, finding, good labor, people willing to work. The market was rough. We came online with our first harvest. We harvested in September. So we came, with our first harvest to market during Croptober. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Croptober. The market takes a nice little dip over the winter, as well as there was a big recall in the state of Michigan, which affected about 80% of cultivators. So that affected us as well. So we had a really challenging first few months getting to market, no doubt. Our packaging was delayed due to the COVID stuff. That was a challenge. But, we started 2022 off with a bang, and we came out with our packaging. We dropped our exclusive packaging, our pre-rolls, new strains, everything's high testing. And, we haven't really looked back from there. But it was definitely a challenging 2021. And I think the whole Michigan market can attest to that a little bit. It's very competitive. A lot of cultivation facilities, a lot of lights online, and more coming. And, we're happy to compete, and, it's going to be a fun time, but it definitely was a challenge to establish a new brand that no one was aware of. So that was definitely something that, we had to deal with.
Yeah. What kind of strains are you guys running over there? Is there anything unique or anything that you like the best?
Yeah, I mean, everyone, knows the runts. We do pride ourselves in our runts. It's one of our favorites, but we do have an electric peanut butter cookie. That was actually what won our ZA Olympic trophy that you can see behind me. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that is the ZA Olympic trophy, first place, best tasting flower in Michigan. We're very excited to take that home. We were competing with some of Michigan's best cultivators that I just, really look up to. So that was a strain that's got a ton of accolades that we just can't keep on the shelf. Electric peanut butter cookie. It's got peanut butter breath in it and some lemon G as well. It's got a really unique terp profile that just stays tasty all the way throughout. If you guys are in Michigan, I'd definitely get you guys a sample of that. We have a Clemendo strain, which is an in-house hunted, unique lemony orange haze that was hunted by one of our growers, Aaron Schneider. That's a unique one. We have a Sherp cream pie that's really unique, and a cherry lime runts that Cody Wellington from our team brought in. That's a really unique one. So we got a lot of strains that no one in Michigan has, which I think kind of separates us a little bit. Then we do have some stuff, like you said, like the runts and, dual OG ice cream cake, some of the stuff that, people are used to seeing on the market, but we like to have some exclusivity as well.
I have a question, Jake. Out of all of those that you listed, which one is your personal favorite and why?
I would probably say the runts. It's a classic. I mean, the joint tastes just perfect all the way throughout. It's very fruity, straight, clean resin ring at the end, white ash. It gives you a great high where you can really be productive throughout the day, but you're also at a really nice functioning level. Takes kind of the edge off. It's just something that I find myself smoking throughout the day and really enjoying. So I would say the runts would probably be my go-to if I had to pick one.
Thank you for the tip when I'm in Michigan.
Yeah, I'll get you several so you can try and make your own decision.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Oh my gosh, the stuff that you're growing sounds fire. We had a question that came in through the chats just now. Kyle wants to know, what nutrient brand do you use and what's your flush protocol? Thanks for that, Kyle.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, appreciate the question. Currently, we're using Front Row Ag. We've used a number of different nutrient suppliers through our years just to trial everything, see what we like, what we don't like. There's a lot of good lines out there, but we use Front Row currently. We've been playing with the feeds a little bit depending on the strain, but basically 2 weeks prior to chopping the plant, we basically drop our EC down to about a 1.5 EC. And then the final week of flower, we flush straight RO. And we just basically maintain that all the way through harvesting. get that nice white ash every time and a very clean burn. That's one thing that we definitely pride ourselves in, is the taste of our flowers. Definitely second to none, in our opinion.
Nice.
No problem.
Well, let's just keep hitting some questions about how you guys are operating over there. Maybe you'll let us know how long you've been using AROYA, maybe how long you knew about AROYA, what got you interested in the product, how you heard about it, those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, AROYA was kind of opening up a whole new frontier to data and just kind of like analytics on the cultivation side that I don't feel like anyone was really addressing. So that caught my eye when they were just launching. I think we came on board with AROYA early in August, I want to say, but we didn't actually use AROYA until our second crop, because our first crop was already, almost to the point that it was going to get chopped. So our second actual cycle, we came online with AROYA. We were achieving amazing yields without AROYA, but once we add them online, it prevented so many potential issues, whether that be a zone that didn't get fed, or a zone that was drying back a little too hard, or a zone that was getting overwatered, or, a strain that we wanted to stack EC a little bit at that particular time. And we realized it wasn't doing that. So we wanted to steer it a little bit differently. So it's been amazing to have that data, have the apps on hand, to be able to task with our team. We use the tasking sometimes as well to, let our team know, because everyone's moving 10 different ways. You can all refer back to what tasks you have for that day, when it should be completed, and what the status is. So, we love that. And being able to repeat the scheduling from each harvest, so we don't have to input data every single time, has been nice. And I think the coolest thing about AROYA is we're still learning new values. We're working with you guys directly to try to, better the platform, to give you guys feedback on what we want to see, what things you guys can maybe improve on. And, that's the nice thing, is when you guys are willing to work with the cultivators that are using your guys' stuff, it just makes the process seamless, and we can just, improve together at a much quicker rate, I think. So, Roy's been great, and the whole team loves it. I don't think we could ever see a time where we didn't have it. So
nice. Well, I know it's one of the things that absolutely makes this job fun for me, is seeing you guys succeed, learning your stories, kind of understanding how the different cultivators are working through the challenges, both technical challenges, both marketing challenges, all that stuff. So we really appreciate, you using the product and being part of our team with us.
Yeah. Anytime that I hear AROYA, like you're saying, it helped kind of overcome some little stumbling blocks, little issues that you could avoid because you had eyes on it with 24/7 data logging. I mean, that's one thing I value so much about it, and I'm glad people do value, because anytime we can save someone's crop, it's big news,
That's a lot of money saved. So yeah. I think, we all appreciate that, because, even we even use like the Atmos in our dry room, our vault. I mean, everywhere. I mean, that data is so important. We want to make sure that, the product's drying, curing, being packaged, wherever it may be, at the right temperature, right humidity. And if there is issues and it's out of, the tolerance dead bands, we get an alert so we can adjust and be aware of that. So, like you said, hit the nail on the head. And, those RH alerts have been super crucial. Sometimes, you'll have a compressor go down or whatever. It's cultivation, things happen. Mm-hmm. And then you get that alert and you're like, oh shit, I got to head to the facility. But at the same time, you're like very appreciative you got that alert. So we haven't had too many, but mm-hmm. Pay dividends when they do. So,
oh yeah, just those little ones, like setting your alerts to actually reflect malfunctioning equipment. That can be a huge one. So you're not getting loaded up with them, and then oh yeah, my RH is out. That rarely do I come out of VPD. That's probably a failure. Or hey, we're heading into the fall. Yep, got to start changing settings. Temperatures are changing outside. This confirms it.
Absolutely.
I guess though, like, what are some of the biggest struggles you think that you've been able to overcome since you've had transparency in data and 24/7 data monitoring?
Yeah, I think the biggest struggle we've had, obviously, growing a lot of cultivars in the same room. You're growing 8+ strains in one room. A lot of those strains don't like the same thing, don't like the same intensity, lighting intensity, feed intensity, whatever it may be. Drying back is hard. Maybe they dry out quicker than the other strains. So having so many different variables at play in the same flower room is definitely always a challenge. I think that's one of the fun parts about cultivating, is it challenges our team to learn each strain, especially as you bring in new strains. You're constantly finding out what that strain may like, whether it's a heavy feeder early on, or it doesn't like to be, fed as high, so that you want to run that, that EC, watch that Arroyo, make sure that EC is staying, between, 3 and 5 is generally, we like to see that runoff, and, just kind of maintaining, that it's within its set guidelines per strain, per cultivar. So that's definitely one thing. I think the other side is, managing all the rooms. Some strains maybe want to come down a few days before the others. You want to harvest them at the exact right time, so you get that, trichrome head exactly where you want it. But it's tough when you have that many cultivars. So that's one thing that we've been challenged with, but we've scheduled our room a lot better, so that way we don't have to deal with that. We can put things that like to, grow a certain way together, and then certain strains that like to maybe be pushed a little harder in this room. So I think that's been something that we've figured out. But that's definitely been one of the biggest challenges on the cultivation side. I think our irrigation strategies as well, from like a fertigation standpoint, have also been another challenge that we've experienced, because we can't just shoot micro shots in to our medium whenever we want. We have somewhat of a limited time range that we can feed certain times. So we don't get to steer quite as maybe some people that are on dab pumps or dosatrons or something like that. So
cool. Yeah. I mean, it's really useful to have data, and, it's always a challenge. Like that's one unfortunate thing I think most growers are faced with right now, is having to grow several strains in one room. But it is really nice to start quantifying, what is that actual happy medium for everything, and, having a full picture, because by the time you're at 8 different cultivars in a room, you're maybe not quite as challenged as having perpetual harvest, but depending on what the cultivars are, it might be pretty close as far as trying to find, okay, what is the medium we can run in? Because too far one way or the other in terms of VPD, temp, I mean, certain plants just won't tolerate it. So that's always a fun challenge as a grower to deal with. And then also seeing how we can overcome some of those challenges just with irrigation, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things that I've seen when people do have quite a few cultivars in a room is, that at each run, they'll notice that one of the strains performs a little bit better than maybe the last run or the other strains. And so they use harvest groups and document, hey, this is our golden run for that strain. And then they can kind of also start to group them together when they're organizing their production planning.
No doubt. Yeah. I look forward to you guys as you guys integrate closer with Metric in Michigan. I look forward to using the harvest platform and data more. We currently have like a third party harvest kind of platform that integrates our data with Metric really like fluidly. So that's been really nice. Once you guys fully have that onboarded and everything, we look forward to kind of playing with that, because then we'll have all our data in one place and it can better steer our decision making. Like you said, harvest batches, was that the perfect run? Are these strains perfect for each other? So forth. And we can really look back at each harvest data, have it in the same place, and that'll be helpful. So looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can reduce the number of platforms you have to work on, the better. It's easy to start building up so many different programs to work in that you probably didn't expect to at a cultivation facility.
Yeah, it's a lot more technical than I thought originally, but it's been fun, and we got a really strong team. We have a great post-harvest team. Our packaging team is top shelf. Cam, who runs he's our manager for our post-harvest side. He makes sure our weeds, cured perfect every time. The cannabis is always within, the right water activity that we look for every time. So you get that clean smoke. It doesn't, grind up into dust. It's not too dry. It's not too wet where it's chunky. It's really just like that fine level that you want to see where it's sticky, but it's not shredded into dust. So, we're just, very appreciative that we have each sector of the facility rolling hand in hand together to, push forward to the same goals, which is providing the best, cleanest cannabis possible, to the end user. So, that's what we're striving for. And I feel like we're getting there every day, a little bit closer. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, ensuring that quality all the way into the jar is really key. I mean, there's nothing worse than you busting up really hard for a couple months to get this harvest out, and then it gets over dried or under dried and it molds, or, the quality just isn't consistent in post-production. I know that over the years has been a challenge for quite a few growers as they've been able to outgrow, their drying capability that they designed the facility with, for instance. That sometimes seems to be a challenge.
Hey, yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. We definitely, we harvest more than we plan to dry. Let's say that, which is, a good and a bad problem. I think our grow team's so talented and we have such elite genetics that they perform at super high levels from a yield basis and testing basis. But we're really looking forward to phase 2 because we'll have a significant more amount of dry space. So, that'll be nice. Michigan also has some of the most rigorous testing standards in the United States from a compliance standpoint. So, we're constantly tasking ourselves with being better from an air quality standpoint for a facility to monitoring how we can continuously, provide the best possible cannabis to the end user. So, there's so many things that are at play from an environmental standpoint, air quality standpoint, a feed perspective. Irrigation strategies are obviously a factor as well, to, drying, curing, maintaining that water activity and, proper burping protocols and such. So, that whole process is a lot deeper than people really think to provide the perfect cannabis at the end of the day. So we really strive to push ourselves in all those areas.
Would you say it was a pretty difficult learning curve to do curing on a large scale basis? I know when I first got into it, that presented an interesting logistical challenge going from small batch, like literally, gallon jars to, okay, how do we deal with hundreds of pounds of product every couple weeks? Was that a big step for you?
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely different. I mean, coming from a caregiver, we were pretty large from the caregiver side, I guess. So we were pretty, used to, tote curing large bins, tote, stuff like that. But with the whole compliance side, the testing, you have to be a lot more thorough. The SOPs, the cleaning protocols have to just be a lot deeper and a lot more thorough. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but we were able, like I said, we brought an individual, like I said, Cam, our team lead on the post-harvest side. He was able to help us streamline our processes. Like I talked to you guys about Cody and Austin as well. They're just, familiar with the commercial side as far as curing, testing, burping, all those processes. So we were able to kind of get together and, take a team approach to it and kind of get everyone's feedback and take the best strategy. And obviously every day we're learning, we're adjusting and trying to grow to improve strategies every day. But we do have some really good standards at play. And, I would say right away, we weren't exactly there, but we learned pretty quickly, what it takes. If you don't learn quickly in Michigan, you're not going to last long.
Yeah, it's competitive out there. I mean, any new state coming on for expansion, just I guess the green rush is still a thing, at least for a little bit once it hits, right? Absolutely. And it seems like you found a pretty sustainable way to ride out that green rush and move into that next phase, which is, okay, what are we looking at long term here? Establishing a brand, having consistent product, and going, okay, yeah, we're pretty darn sure we're going to be here next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're positive.
Yep.
I think some of the things that I notice when I'm out in Michigan, it seems like compared to some other states I've been to, it's a lot more like manufacturing type of focus where they're implementing industrial processes into their cultivation systems. And so that's one thing I got really excited about. It was like going into a Ford manufacturing plant or a food manufacturing plant where, hey, our cultivation needs to be streamlined from start to finish in order to stay competitive here.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And maybe that's just a cultural thing in Michigan, I guess. People are industrious. Yeah. But it is really cool to watch. I know seeing some of these states that have come on more recently for, larger scale facilities, man, the level of technology in some of these places and the ability to do like what you guys have done and start from scratch. Not retrofit an older building, not have to deal with a lot of shortcomings that, I don't know. I deal with plenty of people who, at first, sometimes it seems like they got a great deal on some real estate, so they're going to start a weed grow and, a couple $1 million later, it might've been easier to not have to tear down the old building and build a new one or, it's cool to see the industry mature. And I'm sure for you guys, it feels pretty awesome to be part of that. It feels like you made it, like you got a real job in weed, and it is a real job now. It's normal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Michigan industry. I mean, Michigan's been very receptive to the cannabis industry from, I would say, not day one of the caregiver market, but at the day one of the license, metric side of things, at that point, I think communities kind of said, okay, this is here to stay. Let's get with it. Let's take advantage of the tax revenue. This is not a bad thing. This is coming. And at that point, I think it was a little bit more normal to be a commercial grower, I guess, because before when you're a caregiver, people are like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, work for myself, what I mean? Just kind of keep it on the DL. So, but now it's a lot of difference. We have 25, 30 employees, multiple locations now. Like I said, we're working on this vertical integration model. We'll have a retail, outdoor, indoor phase 2 coming. We're tripling our footprint. So, there's a lot of things, growing. I think we've proven that we can, do what we started out to do. And, that's why there's room for growth. So pretty excited about that.
Oh, absolutely. I know for me, just from a grower's perspective, for years before even getting into the cannabis market, working in plant research and then going to, grow in the basement and stuff. It's like, man, I really wish I could use some of this really cool technology on my cannabis, but I couldn't up until, the last few years. It's all finally starting to hit and people are doing some just like you guys, pretty incredible things in terms of yield and quality and repeating it time after time. I mean, just the ability to turn, 18 crops in a year in a facility, which is not uncommon at all anymore, would have been insane to talk about, 5-10 years ago.
Yeah. Consistency is key, man. You gotta pump out every crop's got to be the same or better. Test, very close to where it was, or people will complain, gotta, look just as good or better. Obviously you have to pass testing every time. So, there's really no room for error, but, I think once you dial that model in, you get the data, your systems are consistent. You have a great team, which we have, a great culture, which is even more important. Our culture here is really strong. We have just a great, group of people that are just here together. We always, say it's the PG fan, keep it PG. That's kind of our thing. And, I think we really embody that here together as a company. So.
I like that saying.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool, Jake. I was actually just curious because you guys have so much going on. You're expanding into these different phases. Like you seem to be getting some good results from AROYA. We'd love to hear a little bit more about maybe how AROYA is kind of helping as you continue to scale up. Maybe some of the areas maybe you've seen some improvement. What have you noticed?
Yeah, so we were able to have Noah, who's like our account manager, out on site. He was very helpful to the team. Not only did he show a lot of love to the brand and to the team, introduce himself to everybody, but he also wanted to pick our brain about what areas we could see improvement, what areas we love, what areas maybe we didn't like. So, the support's been great. Obviously, working with you guys has been really cool. The marketing's been great. You guys are constantly promoting us. We're promoting you guys. So I feel like there's been a really good partnership. And then obviously, like the data, the main thing that stays on my computer screen next to me over here is 3 tabs of all my flower rooms of AROYA. So, constantly just keeping the team in the loop on that, and educating us on how we can better use your platform. Something that we definitely need to allocate a little bit more time for, because as you guys know, the grow gets time consuming and every day there's new challenges and different things popping up, but we definitely want to take more time to learn more about the platform. But, it's constantly helped us to understand how we can steer better, what growth periods are, different feeding times. And, I think Noah's helped specifically guide us with our irrigation strategies as well. Hey, maybe you guys should increase that first shot volume so you guys can get closer up to max saturation earlier. And then you guys can use your next couple shots to maintain that level. And that kind of data and that kind of input is very valuable, because obviously he's working with clients on a day-to-day basis, and, also comes from a cultivation background as well. So, getting another great mind to give us some feedback on what they're seeing on our rooms, where you guys can, look exactly at what our rooms are doing, how they're performing, ask us questions. Maybe you guys, hey, why are you guys dropping the humidity so early? Oh, well, we were spraying this or doing that, or we didn't notice that. Thanks for catching that. That's been huge for us to help better guide the team. I think everybody on the cultivation side, even, our daily just grow team, they're all becoming familiar with AROYA platform, which I think takes time. Like I said, it's only our first year. So I think over the next year, we'll continue to, get them more access and get them all interacting a little bit more with AROYA. So, we have a computer that we have out on the floor that all the growers are able to go in and look at data, interact with the AROYA, or they have it on their phone as well to go on the app. So, just the multiple uses has been great for us. And I think the biggest thing is, like I said, the alerts has been huge. Saving a $450,000 crop is, you can't say enough good things about that.
Well, so the alerts saved a $450,000 crop. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, we'll push our plants pretty hard, like a lot of grows will. And sometimes things in cultivation, you may have a solenoid fail, you may have someone shut a zone off for whatever reason, you may have a fertigation issue or whatever, and a zone doesn't get a shot or a room doesn't get fed. Then you get that alert pop up that says, oh, hey, zone 1 or room 1 or 2 is at 20%, WC water content. And we're like, oh no, what's going on? So we'll pop in there, and that's helped us numerous times. And I think without AROYA, we definitely would have had probably some crop loss for sure. So I think it's done a great job just helping us from potential issues, educating the team on, hey, you can't do that, or solenoids do fail. So you got to be aware. And without, active moisture monitoring, you would never know. Unless you're there every second of every day, which is impossible. So
awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So especially knowing that you grew at a quite a bit smaller scale for quite a few years before making this transition to a bigger facility. Now that you're using data logging to make decisions, do you feel like crop to crop, the same strain, you're dialing it in quicker, you're improving those yields, you're making progress? I mean, that's the way I feel having this data versus not, is I can make progress on one strain way quicker. In the middle of that run, I can notice things and start to correct them and improve my consistency. Have you experienced the same thing, do you think, since you've had access to tools like this?
Absolutely. I mean, it helps you make data-driven decisions way faster. Like you said, I mean, good growers are always reading the plant. There's signs of stress. There's things that we're constantly looking at, runoff, all these things that we're used to doing as basement guys, knowing the plant very well. But then when you get these tools at your hands, it's almost like a cheat code. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I want to read the plants, of course, but I can make decisions before having to read the plants are pissed off by having these tools. Hey, the EC is creeping up on this zone. I think you guys are running them a little too dry. And then you see, oh, hey, you guys didn't adjust. Well, you guys kind of, push those a little too hard, and that EC stacked up a little too high. Now, next time that certain strain doesn't like to get the EC up above whatever it was. So I think having that data has helped us a ton understand our new strains, our old strains, and validate some of our feelings. So, yeah.
I think that was one of the earliest really exciting anecdotes for me, was working with some pretty old school growers, and they were just like, yeah, your system, it proved that what I thought was right. They were thinking these things for so long. They're pushing their plants for certain ways, certain reasons. And now that they were able to back it up with data, they could look at more of their plants at once. And they're just like, hey, there's why I was doing what I was doing. Let's keep doing that and keep going down that route. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something, you can never really throw out of cultivation totally, as the grower. Someone always needs to be there to read plant health. You've got to look for signs of stress, plant morphology changes when we're trying to time our different steering cues. And just in general, you need to know what you're looking for in a healthy plant and what the plant you want to looks like. That's certainly something I could just turn you loose with a set of instructions, but if you don't know what to recognize to turn the dials just a little bit, you can get off the rails pretty quickly.
Yeah. And you got to know your cultivar as well. I mean, all these strains are so different these days. You really got to grow it a few times to really understand it too. So it's definitely a factor there, but yeah, it takes a good grower and, observant set of eyes that are constantly on the garden, looking for pest pressures, like you said, plant morphology, all those numbers, runoff numbers, whatever it may be. So.
Yeah.
I think I have another question for you.
Go ahead.
And along these lines, right? Like we still need the growers have that valuable insight and that expertise. I was just wondering if there any functionality that AROYA doesn't currently have that would help your growers. So anything that you can think of.
We love so many tools about it. The IPM stuff. The biggest thing is the harvest integration platform with just mainly the state, you know what I mean, on the metric side, which I think is, me and Noah had some in-depth conversations on, the updates on that. So I think that's something I'm just really looking forward to, when we can basically use you guys harvesting, scale, and we can wear our full plants and it can integrate directly into metric, streamline that. And like you guys touched on earlier, is taking one more platform away, so that way we can just be streamlined with all our data, through Arroyo. That would be very helpful. So, we're looking forward to that. There's also a cost savings associated with that, because obviously you're paying for these services. So, we look forward to getting that up. Then, once we have all the harvest data on the Arroyo platform, compliant wise, that'll be just huge. That'll basically allow us to just look at so much data every day and really understand what each strain is producing on a square foot basis per harvest. So we can really understand, which runs were the best, what was done those runs, so forth. Maybe, hey, this room tested a little higher because whatever we did differently. So.
Awesome. Amazing. Seth, Jason, are there any more questions we had for Jake before we open up to Q&A?
I think we've got some questions coming in for Jake from the watchers, the viewers here. So
yeah, Mandy, we have any questions here? Want to ask?
Yeah, I would love to ask a couple questions in the chat. Is that where we're moving on to our Q&A now? Or okay, great. Just going up a little bit in our list. Michael had a question. When addressing systemic issues, what product IPM solutions do you use?
I think that would be very dependent on what the issues you're seeing. If it's like more of we use ozone in our water. So we definitely do some like between harvest line cleaning and pretty intense room reset cleaning protocols. Full Sanidate spraying coverage. Every surface is getting touched. We also fog our rooms to make sure that every possible area is getting touched. Because fog's got that full room coverage, which we love to see. And then on a day-to-day basis with the plants, we're constantly scouting. We're reading pest pressures. We will use beneficial bugs sometimes as well. We don't spray too much. We try to generally stay away from it, but we do use some BioSafe products and some BioWorks products, just depending on, what we're doing. So yeah, those would be the main lines I would recommend looking into for, pest prevention, mold, disease, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. Just to add to that, when we are talking about like a systemic issue, we're talking about a whole plant infection or something, with the irrigation lines. I think Jake nailed it there. Don't throw out the elbow grease. You can have a lot of different products that work for you, but if you're not getting in there and scrubbing, at the end of the day, cleanliness is so huge in these facilities. You can't throw that out. There's no product that's going to save you if you can't get in there and scrub and apply.
Well said. Yeah, we have a gentleman on our team named Connor. We call him the Clean Machine, and he's our facilities, cleanliness manager, so to speak. And this guy is about 6'3", about 250, and just loves to clean. And he's never stops cleaning tables, benches, floors, whatever it is. And he's got a little team underneath him, and it's pretty cool because they really take cleanliness to the next level. And that helps me, because I don't have to chase after people to keep things clean when you have someone like that has such a pride in maintaining a clean facility. So that's been a blessing to us as well.
Yeah. Hugely important from an IPM standpoint. And just for your day to day. If you walk into a messy place, your morning doesn't feel as good. I know that's how I feel if I walk into a messy grow room.
Yeah. And we have, one thing I didn't touch on earlier that I probably should mention is we have pretty high facility standards. We don't give a ton of tours. And, when people do give tours, they're fully Tyvek, boot covers, hair nets, beard nets. We go through air shower before entering the facility. Everybody that works on the floor, any growers, they take a full shower every day, clean scrubs daily. So that way we, maintain that, make sure our hats, anything we're wearing in the grow is, sanitized and washed daily or weekly. But all the, apparel's changed every day, cleaned every day. Shoes are cleaned daily, air shower and the full shower in protocol for all the growers. So we try to make sure we're not bringing in things because, it is the summer and there's a lot of, bugs, mold spores, whatever it may be out there. So we, try to do our best to fight those things off before having to deal with them.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a lot easier to prevent them than it is to eradicate them.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And then, as a grower, I can say it's pretty awesome if you've got like locker room and shower facilities. Cause sometimes you got to go to the post office after work or pick up your kid, those normal things.
Yep. Go to that school play and smell like been in the all day is no bueno.
Sit down and look at the bottom of your shoes and go like, ooh, should have left these ones at home. So that's awesome that you guys are able to provide that for your employees. It's a really cool two-way streak, I think. And that's part of commercializing this and scaling up. Like you're able to do things like that, make it more of a regular workplace. Just right back to the good old weed factory now.
Yep.
Oh, we got some more questions in there. Wilton Bryant's asking, what type of gains did you see when you first started using AROYA?
I would say honestly, our first harvest, we hit it out of the park from a yield perspective. I think we've been able to dial in our quality. I think yields are something that we've, as growers, just because we have a really sound team, always been able to achieve. But I think really dialing in the quality and making sure that we're not having any crop loss or pushing things too hard, but, getting that data from AROYA, like I touched on, potentially saving crops. That's really where the value's been for us. We've been able to push yields somewhat in some areas for sure. We've definitely seen some better yields, but yields have never been the problem. I think just the best quality and just making sure that we can repeat the same practices every run, which is what the AROYA's allowed, provided for us. So those have been the biggest things for us, but we've definitely seen huge growths in our terpene profiles, in our THC, TCA, and our total cannabinoid production as we've been dialing in our strains more. That's been somewhat thanks to the AROYA platform as well as our growers.
Awesome. Get that consistency in there. I've heard from a lot of clients that, they just talk about it, even some of the best growers, we're hitting it out of the park with yields and, maybe their next run wasn't quite as high up. And after they started getting the system in, it was like, hey, we can do projectability on what we're going to get out of this growth cycle, add up what we're used to getting from these strains, analyze our standard deviation on that crop, and then really be able to tell the sales team, this is what's coming down in the future. So that consistency is great for your entire team and for the business overall.
Yeah, I think it helps marketing out quite a bit when you can give them that data and they can make, an intelligent decision and say, hey, we're, instead of them being, for instance, too optimistic, which I know it's really easy to do when you like you said, if you knock it out of the park one run, then you come back at 70 to 75% of the yield the next run. That's going to make their job really difficult. It's going to put a lot of pressure on you. And then also potentially down the line, most of your customers in terms of dispensaries, they want to keep your shelf space. They want you to fill that up. If you stop supplying, they're less inclined to continue to buy from you down the line, especially in a spot like Michigan right now, where it's pretty competitive, right? And right now you're still in a phase where sales are starting to come up. We're crawling out of the medical and otherwise black market. So we still got a ways where your company can grow probably before you realize what exactly your market share is going to end up being. So you don't want to lose out on that potential.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. It's definitely a competitive market, but I think we've done a good job separating ourselves from a packaging standpoint, quality standpoint, genetic standpoint, and as well as a consistency, like you said, which is obviously key. These dispensaries want to have consistency. The end consumer wants consistency with the strains that they're purchasing. And at the end of the day, us as growers, we want to have consistent results, yields, test results, everything across the board, and continue to push those, as high as we can. So, yeah.
Awesome. We have a little bit of time left. We've actually gotten quite a few questions in addition to the chat on Instagram. related to crop steering. Seth and Jason, you mind answering a couple? And Jake, maybe you have some insight too. We got this question here from Husky. They wrote, question, when transitioning from vegetative to generative and back and forth, what is the transition period and volumes to transition from vegetative to generative feeds? Or is it just a quick switch?
That was a pretty in-depth question. You got to give it to me one more time.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is how they come in. Seth and Jason, this is old hat for them. When transitioning from vegetative to generative and back and forth, what is the transition period and volumes to transition from vegetative to generative feeds? Or is it just a quick switch? We have Husky on. Husky, if you want to unmute yourself and clarify, feel free to go ahead and say something if you want to add. But if not, there's a question. Yeah.
Husky wants to hop on. That's cool. If not, I would leave that to our director of cultivation, Austin. He kind of does a lot of our fertigation stuff, but I would say not much change. I mean, definitely a little bit on the shot sizes and the frequencies, just based on how that strain's performing based on the data. So, like I mentioned before, if certain strains are just going through different phases of growth and now they're, demanding a lot more water to get up to that actual, max saturation that you want to see, then you got to adjust. So that's kind of, we just kind of play it per strain and, adjust slightly per run. And then we can kind of better, gauge how that affected that crop specifically, and then make better decisions for the next run. So that way you're not changing too many things at once. And we kind of found a nice sweet spot, and we kind of replicate our same recipes, almost every run, and tweak them a little bit per strain. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing your experience with that. Jason, anything to add?
I think that's the best approach that Jake's got there, is dial them in and just only make one variable modification each time that you run it. That way you are getting closer to the absolute perfect golden run.
Yeah, I'll actually dive into a few little specifics based on veg to gen and gen to veg real quick. So when we're going from gen to veg, you got to remember that we're going to kind of be training this plant to uptake more water. So we're not immediately going to hit it with quite as many P2s. We're going to watch the graph, just like Jake was mentioning, and see what it needs. So right when we switch out, we don't want to hit P2s really hard and then overwater the plant and flush out our EC. That's a common challenge that people run into. So for a few days, you're going to watch and start adding those P2s in, but always watch that graph and make sure you're not over or under watering. We always got to remember, just like Jake said, you're going to be increasing certain volumes, increasing or decreasing the number of shots at different times, all based on what you're seeing on your graph. So there is no set transition period, but typically 1 to 3 days is about what it takes. And when we're at the end of veg, typically go straight to gen, but always watch if your plant's over drying to the point where, you're going to be down in that sub 20% in cocoa the next day. Well, we'll start putting on a maintenance shot so we can deal with that.
Yeah. Well said.
And one of those things, if you are turning it pretty quick, just make sure that you're monitoring and that the things aren't getting out of line. So if we are going into generative shots and we see that our EC is just getting way out of control that first day, then definitely keep that in mind for the next run, that you don't want to go quite that fast when you're pushing it. But a lot of times, people are able to make that transition fairly quickly once they're used to the specific constraints of that strain in their facility.
Yeah, I've noticed a healthy plant in an appropriately sized pot, typically a 1-day switch is all you need. If it's taking longer, you might have kind of a finicky strain or some other variable that you need to address in the environment typically.
Amazing. Thank you. I love all this resource sharing. This is like the best. Thank you for your question. We got another question in from Instagram. We have a few minutes, so I wanted to go ahead and put it to everybody. Okay, so this came from Sharp Mouse Farms, our friend over there. He wrote, leaf VPD versus atmospheric VPD. What is the correlation between the two in terms of how it impacts our metrics? Most people dial in atmosphere VPD based off temperature and relative humidity percentage, but don't take leaf temperature into account. What are some of the drawbacks besides the obvious? Is there an ideal leaf temp for photosynthetic conversion? Are we trying to average out the two? What happens to leaf vapor at atmospheric dew point? Does it just equalize with the surrounding area? In that case, are we causing additional transpiration from the leaf being an ideal VPD range based off atmospheric VPD? There's a lot in there.
Yeah, I love this question. Oh, Jake, you want to hit it first?
You'd probably be better fit to answer it, but I will say that, with proper plant function, definitely we take a lot of leaf surface temp readings with the temp gun, just because you will see when plants are, for whatever reason, unhappy that leaf temperature is dropping. And it's not, around that 80, 82, wherever you're looking to see it for your strain specific. We will pay attention to that very much, and definitely have seen that help guide us to better understanding how that plant's functioning. And obviously, with the room VPD versus the actual plant surface leaf temperature. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. So, leaf temperature, difference between that and what's going on in the environment. We're looking at really two impacts. One would be the temperature loss due to transpiration. So as that water is evaporating or transpiring, out of the leaf surfaces, it's actually going to decrease the surface temperature of that leaf. And then we've got radiation, which is going to be increasing the temperature of that leaf. And so this is one of the things that, people, especially if you're transitioning from like HPS to LEDs, definitely go in there and take some leaf surface temperatures and get an idea on what you should be setting your room VPD to. Now, as far as continuous monitoring, I like room VPD because that is what's mostly going to change our leaf surface temperature, and our leaf VPD is by modifying the environment. Obviously, if we did go through like a light change, or maybe we change the height of the plant or the height of the lights in relationship to the plants, those things can make a difference in relationship between leaf VPD and environment VPD. But typically, once you're in the set parameters of a room is already set up, you're not going to see much modulation in the difference between leaf VPD and room VPD. And so that's one thing that I always kind of like to keep in mind is let's go in there and get an idea of what that difference is. Is it maybe -3, and then just monitor the environment VPD. And typically those leaf surface temperatures aren't going to change off of the room environment much.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of nail it on the head there. We can, when we're looking at leaf surface VPD, we're looking at the condition closest to the stomata, closest to the surface of the leaf. So that's what's actually affecting transpiration. Now, you're not in there 24/7 with a laser thermometer taking all these readings. So the best we can do is get very familiar with your environment. Like Jason said, get out there, take those leaf surface temps, and then if you start to dive into the math, you're going to realize that you're usually calculating air VPD right before you calculate leaf VPD. So why not familiarize yourself with the known values you can easily calculate and base your strategy off of that? And just as Jason pointed out, this is a pretty static room. If we've got everything else accounted for, there's not much variation in the room. Everything's under control. We're not having heat spikes or humidity spikes. We can trust that the air VPD that we're reading will correlate in the way that we expect it to with our leaf VPD. Now, going out there and collecting those measurements all the time is a great idea, because you might find with different strains in the room, you do have different surface temperatures. Maybe we have to modify the room certain ways. Maybe some strains, that's another factor that we can use to judge whether or not they should run together, because some need it to be hotter in the room. And yeah, like just as Jason said, switching from the HPS to LEDs is a huge challenge if you're used to running your room one way and now you need to run it a different way. So getting in there and getting that leaf VPD will really help you guide that. But it's important to familiarize yourself with what kind of ranges you can realistically and easily monitor in your room.
And one of the challenges with point measurements like leaf surface temperature is you need to be capturing a lot of samples in order to get a good picture of what's going on in there. So if we just visualize a plant, almost always our upper leaves are going to have a little bit higher surface temperature on them because of the radiation that's getting to them. And so, go in there and take some leaf temps across the entire plant and say, all right, well, here's the range that we see. Now, here's what our room temperature is, and then just keep that in mind and try and fluctuate your environment into the perfect range for those plants. And one of the things that is a nice tool to help people with strain specific type of application with this is stomatal conductance. So you can go in there and take a whole bunch of stomatal conductance readings and then maybe make a slight environment change, go back and take a bunch more stomatal conductance readings and see if transpiration rates have increased or decreased due to that variation or that variable change.
Thank you guys for that. That was oh my gosh, one of the most interesting questions I've heard in a long time. And you guys handled it like champs. We do have one final question that came in through the chats. And then I think that we're going to have to sign off because we're at time. But Bilbo Baggins wanted to know, what sort of time, cost, and ERP connections do you have within the AROYA platform?
Well, we have an open API, so you can pull out any of your data. We do have timed events, obviously, task timing. We don't have a cost spreadsheet function in there quite yet, but anyone who is building their own ERP can look at our open API and see what kind of data they would want to pull out.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where we like to just chat with our customers and get an idea of what specific applications work best for them as well. And that kind of helps us direct our energy into the most valuable solutions. And it's one thing if we just build out a solution out there and say, hey, this is available. It's a lot better if we get in touch, partner with our clients and get an understanding specifically what applications they need, what data they need to be pulling through an API in our system. But I'm always really excited to help people utilize our open API. I utilize it personally for some control stuff in my house, and it's a fantastic tool for making the most of your data. If it's slightly beyond what you can do in AROYA, I encourage you get that data and do what you need with it. If you got software engineers on your team or just very technically savvy employees, then let them start playing around and making the most of the value that you're capturing from your facility.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that. And I did tell a little lie. I do have one more tiny question for y'all. Can you guys tell me in under a minute, what's the best spot to put a sensor in a slab? This is a test.
On the downhill side in between two of the plants. Don't put it right under one of the top blocks.
And definitely make sure that you're trying to use one of our installation templates or a ruler, and I think it's 1 1/4.
Yep. 1 1/4 inches.
The bottom slot. That for Rockwool slabs.
Yeah. That goes without saying. If you're using these sensors, you should just have that.
I needed to say it.
Yeah. Anyone out there, drill a hole in your little tool, put it on a lanyard. They can go missing easily. I've talked to a few people that have done like the old gas station bathroom key trick.
There you go.
Just attach it to something big and unwieldy so no one can just shove it in their pocket and go home.
Nice.
Great rules to live by. 56 seconds. You guys did it. Awesome.
Outstanding. This has been an amazing episode. Jake from Peninsula Gardens, it was so good to have you on. Thank you for coming on with us. Looking forward to coming out to Michigan and experiencing that wonderful facility in person at some point in the future.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you guys out. Let us know when you guys are ready to come out, and we'll have the red carpet waiting for you guys.
Yes. Amazing. Seth and Jason, as usual, wonderful to talk to you guys. Great job managing the conversation today. And of course, Mandy, my co-moderating partner. Can't do it without you. 30 episodes. We're going to keep it going. This is for you, cultivators. These conversations all about you. Thank you all for joining us for this week's Office Hours Live. If you have any questions about AROYA, you're welcome to book a demo. Let's talk to the experts about everything that you can do to improve your cultivation production process. And then as far as office hours go, if there are any topics anybody out there wants to hear about, post it in the chat. Shoot us an email at support.aroya@metergroup.com or send us a DM over Instagram. We definitely want to hear from you. We record every session. We'll email everybody in attendance a link to the video from today's discussion. It'll also be in the AROYA YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and share while you're there. And if you find these conversations helpful, please do spread the word. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys.
Everyone.
Bye, Jake. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Thank you to our attendees.